All right, we're in Iowa. We just finished up we get to go to Iowa a couple times a year to record content. It's my favorite trips.
Cool.
And so we're here with Steve. We're gonna hang a few cameras. I didn't draw on 4 points here in Iowa, so now we're gonna go put some cameras out and try to see what's running around next year.
This is some pre-scouting.
Yes.
So, yep, but it'll still be cool.
So yeah, we're gonna hang some cameras. We're gonna pick Steve's brain as we go on a lot of this stuff. How long have you been in the land business?
I think I bought my first farm in Iowa, which would have been my first farm anywhere, in 1998. And ironically, that was the farm that I then sold to Bill Winke. So that then became his farm. So probably owned somewhere between 25 and 30 since then.
Yeah.
So
I greatly appreciate you taking the time to come kind of let us do pick your brain.
No, it's good to see you guys.
Always learn so much from folks like yourself. So we'll hop in the truck and start exploring.
Cool. Let's go.
So we're driving through here. What'd you do here? You guys put in a road and a water hole?
Yep. Yeah, we put a road in, and some of the dirt we used for the road we got out of this area here, and then we converted that to a water hole. And we probably have only had a ½ inch of rain in the last 5 weeks, so they're really hitting the water right now.
Will you guys have a bow set up or anything like in through
Yeah,
here?
yes. Yeah, probably right there. That looks like, that way you're hunting both the water hole, the crossing, and we try to hunt that on a south. Anything we set up on water, we usually set up for south winds, so that would be a strong setup there.
Awesome. Well, we're gonna find a stick, put up a camera, see what
Yeah.
rolls into it. So we're driving around, we got some beans, we got corn, and then a buffer strip of CRP here, and we were driving along and saw basically this community licking branch scrape tree that's just hammered all the way around.
Yep, that's pretty good sign.
Yeah, so we're gonna throw it on this fence post here, and I think there's always, a lot of people have mentioned this, but there's a misconception like, oh, no, they're not gonna even mess with that right now. I bet you here within the next week, you're gonna have some velvet bucks.
Yeah, they already are. I mean, that branch
Just
has
dying.
been broken off. Yep,
Yeah.
that's fresh.
So I'm really excited. We're gonna, whatever deer are on here, we're gonna find
We're gonna
them.
learn, so.
So this feels like Iowa. So this feels very Iowa.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this tree here.
Most people, officially talk about timber diameter at breast height, which is gonna be about right here. That's a very general thing. What I try to look at is take the tree, figure out where the first log would come out straight. So, like if you can cut this one flat at the ground, you got 8 foot there, so you should be able to get a good 10-foot log and cut it off right here. So then what I do is take this, bend it back over at 18 inches, like that. And you can pretty well gauge with the narrow end. That's gonna be a 17 on the small side. So, because when what I'm trying to figure out is how many board feet are gonna be in this tree, each log. So on this one, you've got 10 feet and it's 17 inches at the small end. It's gonna have about 170 board feet in that. So this isn't a really high value tree. One thing I would look at on considering cutting this, by size it's borderline. It's a poor form tree. So I would look around and we have some real good walnuts around right here. That if I can get this one out of the way and give more sunlight and more nutrients to something else and make the habitat a little better, then it's a win all the way around. So we should hike a little, if you don't mind hiking a little further, we could look at some better trees.
Let's definitely do that.
Yeah. Like a tree like that will still have quite a bit of value.
Really?
Which is hard to believe. Yep. Yeah, and that's something, a lot of times we find ones like this in the creek. They've already fallen off and and they're a little bit of a pain to deal with because a lot of times the sand is washed over them and stuff, but they're always worth taking out, so.
I would have never guessed
that. And on real high value trees, say it's a $4 or $5 board foot tree, they'll dock us $1. You know what I mean? So they can still be, we've had cuts where the best tree that we took out of there was one we found in the creek.
I would never guess that.
Yeah.
Ever.
This is one that I would definitely take. The other way I judge that is if we come in here and selectively harvest the big mature trees, what would this tree's future be in 20 years? Because there'll be nobody back to get it. If this will be in the creek in 20 years or it's likely to, then it needs to go now. So, but that's a real good tree. That's gonna be at the beginning of the first log, at least a 20-inch tree. And the growth on trees or
caliper.
Yeah, the caliper, the diameter, it's exponential.
Once it gets to a certain point.
Once it gets to a certain size, your board footage grows immensely. So yeah, that tree's probably bigger than that. Yeah, that's probably if you cut, yeah, it's probably a 21 if you cut it at 8 feet. And if you cut it 10, somewhere right in there, you know, you'd have a lot. So you're probably 260 board feet in that first tree, that first one. So, you know, that first cut at, you know, $3 should be 600. This is $1,000 to a $1,200 tree pretty easily. Yeah. So,
wow.
Yep.
So you're running the chainsaw on these?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that's a little side skill that I taught myself. And it truly came from, it's like all the stuff with food plots. Mm-hmm. It's like you show up here to hunt, but then you want to have food plots, so you learn to farm. Then you want to manage timber, so you learn to log. Then you want to improve the farm, so now you got to be a mechanic because you've got bulldozers and tractors, and you know what I mean? Those are all skills I didn't possess before the journey in hunting started. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it's funny. And the timber is one of those things that done wrong, it can really change the look and the value of a farm. Mm-hmm. So to me, that was why we had to take that over.
So I saw that you were doing one of these projects with an edge feather. We're on a soybean field here, and tell us what are you doing here, and what are your goals?
You know, the edge feathering is a project we do on a lot of the farms. It's very common. What we're trying to do is make a softer edge. Instead of being big timber to wide open, you're trying to create that zone of, you know, thick brush, nesting cover, fawning habitat, stuff like that. On this one's totally different because underneath all these broadleaf weeds and the trees that have been hinged, we planted about 1,600 shrubs. So the shrubs are going to also grow up through there. The idea behind this was we can't do tree or shrub plantings without protecting them from the deer. So by spraying the grass, allowing the broadleaf weeds to come in and the trees, that is going to hide those shrubs until they're big enough to, you know, survive the deer pressure on their own.
What are kind of the shrubs that you planted?
We did a lot of dogwoods, silky dogwoods, red osier dogwoods, cranberry, hazelnut. Yeah, it was just kind of the forester put the plan together based on the soil types. Sure. So the goal in edge feathering is what we have right here, where that elm tree was hinged to the point where it continued to grow and sprout, but eventually that'll die back. Some of the other stuff will rot away, and then those other shrubs should come through. So this one will be pretty exciting to see the results.
Mm-hmm. And so what would be the goal of why would someone want to do this right here specifically?
Here specifically, it's primarily for that nesting cover. You know, that's what funded this project. This was a project through EQIP. So, and their goals were to create more areas where obviously you can't mow over those treetops, you know, the predators can't find them. You know, for us, it's probably the fawning habitat would be the number one goal, and just to set back the vegetation so that there's plenty of browse at you know, eye level for them. We noticed doing this, you find a ton of sheds around this stuff, you know, because there's a ton of browse at eye level.
So let's break down this spot a little bit. So we have a telephone line or a power line.
Yeah, power line right away going through here. It's our land on both sides all around. It's grown back up pretty thick, and then we've kind of maintained an access path here. And then the adjacent hardwoods, a lot of red oaks, but as you get further in, there's a lot of white oaks, and pretty soon those are going to be, you know, highly sought after. This area does not have a lot of white oaks. Mm-hmm. So